everyone, welcome to another Procreate tutorial. This is the drawing that we will be completing in today's video, this fun flowers and bees tutorial with this really cool shape and design. We do a lot of fun stuff to make all of our shadows and highlights, and then drawing the bees at the end is really fun as well. So if you are new here, I mainly post Procreate tutorials, so if that is something you're interested in, go ahead and subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss out on any future tutorials. I also offer extra tutorials over on Patreon, so that is linked in the description below if you'd like to check that out. If you join there, you'll get access to a few exclusive tutorials every month and some sneak peeks as to what we're doing here on YouTube. So before we get started with the drawing today though, the only thing that you will need to do is download the color palette and the special custom dotted line brush for the little line around the edge of our picture. So those are both linked in the description below. They're totally free to download. For the color palette, just save the file to your iPad and then either double tap it or click on it and click open in Procreate, and it will automatically pop the color palette into Procreate so that you can use the same colors as you follow along with the video today. And then for the custom brush, you just need to go into your canvas, go into your brush library here, find whatever folder you want to save it into. Maybe you have a special custom folder or something, and then click the plus icon. Click import and then find the file wherever you saved it to import it there to use later on in the video when we get to that step. I will also post the canvas dimensions, color profile, and layers needed on the screen and in the description below so that you can use that to set up your canvas. So take a minute to get everything ready and then come back and we will get started. Okay, this is the color palette that we will be working with today. So we have all of our background colors and then all of our bee colors, including their shadow and highlight color, all of our flower colors, and all of our leaf and stem colors. Also including a few shadow and highlight colors because we're going to do something different with those. So for the flowers, we'll just use lighter and darker versions of their base colors. And then for the bee and the leaves and stem, we'll use this purple and peachy color and this darker blue and kind of more yellowy color. And this way I'll just show you a different way to do shadows and highlights than we do on our flowers and how that can kind of come into play as you're drawing. But let's go ahead and get started with our background. So on our layer menu, let's find our background color layer, click that to open it up, and select the first color on the first row of the color palette to fill it in with that color. So that's our main background color. Now we're going to make our little archway that they're going to be inside of. So on our layer menu, let's just be on layer 1, and now we'll grab our second color on the top row of our color palette. The brush that we're going to be on is the monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. My opacity is at 100 for the brush. My size, let's do 30%. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here, and just in this upper area, let's go ahead and draw a perfect circle. Pretty big, but we can still move it around. So let's just try a good big circle shape. Hold down until it turns perfectly smooth, and then touch your finger on the screen to make it a perfect circle. Set a good size, and then go ahead and let it go. Drag and drop your color inside to fill it in. Okay, now we want to make the vertical lines on the sides, but let's first move this around and center it. So with our arrow tool, if you need to resize it at all, you can do so on uniform. Make sure it's set to that so it stays a circle. And then most importantly, make sure that snapping is turned on in the bottom left. And then we're going to snap it to the center of our screen where we see this vertical yellow line here. And then we just want to make sure that there's enough room for our little dotted lines on the outside. And we want the top and left and right sides to be similar or roughly the same. So with it centered from left to right, our left and right side are the same. But now we just want it to match on the top. So mine's a little shorter on the top. So I'm going to drag it down on my vertical yellow line until the space up there looks similar to the space on the left and right side, and we have room for our dotted line. So I might downsize it a little bit, recenter it, and again make sure that that space up there looks about the same. Once that's in place, let's go ahead and make our vertical lines on the side. So we're going to turn on symmetry to do that. So I'm going to go to my gear icon under Canvas, click to turn on the drawing guide, click Edit Drawing Guide, set it to Symmetry, and you should see a vertical line here. If you do not, you can click Vertical under Options here, and then click Done. And then on our layer menu now, this layer should say Assisted. If it doesn't, click on it and turn on Drawing Assist. But same layer, same color, same brush, and we are going to make our vertical line. So we're just going to start at like the furthest most right point on our circle here and draw a straight line to the bottom. Hold it down until it turns perfectly straight and then touch your finger on the screen to make it perfectly vertical. Okay, now before we let that all go, click this line button at the top and we can move it around. So we don't want it to dip like in like this. We don't want it to curve in and then go straight down. We also don't want it like sticking out like this on the side. We want it just nice and flush with our circle. So just kind of drag it around until you get it to a good spot where it's not poking out and it's not curving in or anything too far at least. Get it as good as you can there. And then it should mirror on the other side. And then once that's all set, let's go ahead and drag our color into this bottom area to fill that in also. Now let's go ahead and make our dotted line around it. So on our layer menu, let's add a new layer. Let's grab our next color, third color on the top row, and let's switch to the custom brush that you should have downloaded, the dotted line brush. I am going to have my opacity and size set to 100%. And we are essentially going to, again, draw a circle around this other one. So I'm going to start at the top a little ways away from my circle or halfway between that and the top of my canvas, whatever works. Draw around until we get back to the beginning. Hold it down until it turns perfectly smooth and then touch your finger on the screen to set it to a perfect circle of a good size and then go ahead and let that go. Okay, so now we're going to do some adjusting to this. So as you can see towards the top or wherever you connected your circle, there are maybe going to be a few dots that look kind of weird, like these two are closer together. You might have some that like overlap or something, and we're just going to get rid of those. So we're going to end up erasing essentially everything on this lower half so that we can make our straight lines. So we're going to move our weird dots to that area that we're going to get rid of. So let's grab it with our arrow tool. We'll use this green button at the top to rotate it. And I'm just going to rotate it until that weird section is inside my pink color somewhere down here. So wherever yours ended up being, go ahead and rotate it to there. Now we'll do some adjusting further. So let's click our arrow tool to deselect it and reselect it so that we can kind of have a new circle to work with here. And let's first with snapping, snap to the center of our canvas from left to right where we see our vertical yellow line. And then again on uniform, let's go ahead and resize it as well if you need to. So we again want a similar distance on the top that we have on the left and right side. And I want a little bit more distance, so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, recenter it, and kind of drag it back down there until I like the way that looks. I might make it a little bit bigger still. Okay, so we want to kind of find what we think is like the furthest circle to the right. So like on the right side here, I'm going to say it's this one, and then it kind of feels like it starts going back inwards. So I'm going to grab my eraser tool, which I have set to the monoline brush. I'll set it to 100%. And I'm just going to erase that next dot there. Okay, then on the left side, we'll do the same thing. So I feel like maybe this one is the furthest and then it starts coming back in. So this is my next one. Okay, then to get rid of the rest, we're just going to grab our selection tool, set it to a rectangle, make sure color fill is turned off. I'm just going to start on the outside here and drag and draw until we get into that space there where we erased. So just that bottom part is selected. Grab it with our arrow tool and drag it off the screen. Awesome. So now we just want to make one more adjustment before we start doing our straight lines. We want to make sure these two dots that we have furthest out are straight across from each other. So let's grab our arrow tool to select this new selection. And as you can see, it selects like the furthest point down, and that's on the right side here. This one's much further down. It's right in the corner, and this one has some space underneath it. So I'm just going to rotate it to the left just a smidge. We'll recenter it in a moment too, but let's just rotate it first, undo our arrow, redo it so it reselects it. And now it's a lot closer. So this one's still touching the corner. This one still has the teeniest bit of space underneath it. So I'm just going to rotate it to the left just a smidge more, arrow tool again, reselect it. Now I feel like it went the other way, so I'm going to do the other way, just a smidge. So I can hopefully get them pretty close. It doesn't have to be totally perfect, but get it as close as you can to where they're both kind of in the corner or have very little space underneath them. Then once that's done, let's go ahead and recenter it on our yellow line. Make sure our spacing at the top is still good. Okay, and now we can go ahead and make our straight up and down lines. So let's go ahead and make them on a new layer just in case we need to adjust them at all. So on our layer menu, let's add a new layer. Click on it and turn on Drawing Assist for symmetry. And then same color, same dotted line brush at 100%. And I'm just going to start on the right side here, right underneath my last dot, and draw a straight line going straight off the screen at the bottom. Hold it down, touch your finger to the screen to make it perfectly vertical. And then you can kind of try to space them out similar too. So if they seem like way stretched out or a lot smaller, depending on how your top circle ended up, you can kind of adjust them to match that. And then you can also click this line button at the top if you need to move it around to where it lines up over here. So if yours got a little off center or a little too close to the dot or something, you can move it around there until it's lined up nicely with a good little space there that's similar to all of our other spaces, like so. So once that's done, that's it for our little outline there. So let's go to our layer menu. We can now snap those two layers together, our little dotted circle with our dotted lines onto one layer. Let's add a new layer above that, and we'll add our little sun in the background, and then we can move on to our flowers. So on our color palette, let's grab our fourth color on the top row. Let's switch back to the monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. And let's go ahead and just make a perfect circle again in the sky. Hold it down until it turns perfectly smooth. Touch your finger on the screen to make it a perfect circle. Set a good, just kind of medium size, and then fill that in. Grab it with our arrow tool on uniform if you need to resize it at all. And then we're just going to place it here, maybe like in this upper right area, like so. You can place it anywhere you want. We can also move it around later after our flowers are down in case you want to move it around. So it's on its own layer, good to go. Okay, let's go to our layer menu now and let's just group these layers together. These are like our background pieces. So I'm going to select one, slide right on the other two to select them also, and then go ahead and click group. I'm going to click this little arrow here to minimize it and then add a new layer above it. And now we're going to draw our flowers. So they're going to be very like circular in shape. So let's go ahead and we're just going to make a circle to kind of guide us. So let's use this like dark gray color, the 7th one on the top row. I'm on my monoline brush now under the calligraphy tab, size at 30% still. And let's just go ahead and make a kind of smaller circle in this upper left area. So a nice circle shape, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen. Okay, we're not going to fill it in or anything, but if you need to resize it, just grab it with your arrow tool on uniform and we can kind of change the size a little bit. So our first flower is going to go maybe in this upper left area by our sun. So kind of adjust for that, not huge, but a good size. And then we need our second one. So let's go ahead and on our layer menu, just make a duplicate of this circle layer. So slide to the left and hit duplicate. Grab it with our arrow tool and let's move it on over to this other side here where our other one will go. So we want them to be the same size, but yeah, maybe about right here. So those look good. If you need to adjust the size of them now, we need to adjust them at the same time. So on our layer menu, just make sure you have one selected, slide right on the other one to select it also. Grab it with your arrow tool on uniform and then you can downsize them or increase their size together. And then you can still just select them separately to move them around some more if you need to. But I think these look good. Once those are in place on our layer menu, let's just snap those two layers together so they're one layer. Click the N and drag the opacity down quite a bit to maybe like 30% so that we can just use them as a guide. Let's go ahead and add a new layer right above our new group with our background pieces in it, and so we're below our little circle sketches. Okay, and let's go ahead and start drawing our flowers. So let's start with the first color on the second row. We're on our monoline brush still at 30%, and we're going to start our first flower. So each one of them is going to be kind of in this circle. So we're going to make 3 different petals for each. So my first petal here is going to be kind of our very front piece. So I'm going to start maybe on the left of my circle in this like upper left corner. I'm going to start there. I'm going to start right on my kind of circle and I'm going to follow it. So I'm going to kind of follow it this way. Nothing too pretty yet. We'll fix it on up and then follow it this way. And then we'll maybe kind of have it curve down to the bottom of our circle. And then it's going to kind of follow our circle as well. So then for this last line, I'm going to draw it and hold it down so it snaps super smooth. So from here to this other one, I'm going to connect it kind of right on that circular line, hold it down until it turns perfectly smooth. And then you can edit this arc at the top and then like adjust it if you need to meet up there. But yeah, we got just kind of want to follow our little circle there as close as we can. It doesn't have to be perfect, but a nice smooth line. So let's go ahead and fill this in. That's our first petal. And then we can kind of fix it up a little bit. So I'm going to kind of tilt my canvas to help me. And I'm going to kind of smooth these lines out a little bit better. You can hold them down as well if you wish to. Like this one here, we can kind of like hold it down so it's nice and smooth. Something kind of like that. Okay, so that's our first petal. Then on our layer menu, let's add a new layer. Drag the new layer below the one that we just created and grab our second color on the second row. It's just slightly darker than this one. And we'll just draw our right petal with this now. So I'm going to have my right petal maybe start about at that same point on our circle here. And again, kind of curve up and then down through the middle. And it'll just kind of tuck itself behind our other petals there. So I'm just going to kind of fake follow that in the background so that we get a good shape to fill in. So I ended up about, here. And then on this side, I'll follow my circle again and hold it down till we connect with that other line. So just kind of draw behind here and connect it if you need to so we get a shape to fill in. And then go ahead and touch it up anywhere. You can use your eraser also if you need to anywhere. And then they don't have to come together perfectly on the bottom, but just something good. So it should look something like this. You'll be able to see just the briefest little difference between our colors. You might not even be able to see it on the screen here, but you should be able to see it on your canvas. But yeah, feel free to go through and just fix up this top piece also, but mine looks pretty good and smooth, so I'm going to leave that there. Okay, now let's do our back piece. So on our layer menu, add another new layer, drag it below the layers that we have so far, and grab the third color on the second row. And now for our back piece, pretty simple. We'll just go left to right in kind of a curvy pattern across the back. It doesn't have to touch the top of our circle even, but just maybe something kind of like this to the other side, connect it around the bottom behind our other petals and fill that in. And then smooth that out anywhere you need to with your pen or your eraser. Or redraw it if you don't like the shape that you got, but something kind of like that is good. Okay, and then I kind of want it to be like a little bit taller. So a circle was a good guide to get us a good circular shape, but now I kind of want it to be taller than this. So I'm going to go to my layer menu, select one layer, slide right on the others, and go ahead and group them together. Click on this new group at the top, grab it with our arrow tool, set it to freeform, and then we can kind of stretch out the top just a little bit. You can kind of rotate it even a little bit. I might rotate mine a little bit to the left. But yeah, so it's just a little bit taller there. That looks good. Now we'll do the same thing in our other circle, maybe just a teeny bit different. So let's go ahead and just minimize this group, add a new layer above it, and let's start again with our first color on the second row. Same monoline brush at 30%. And our front petal here on this other one was to the left, so this one we're going to make to the right. So I'm going to start maybe at that same point, kind of like on this like upper right part of the circle. And this time we're going to do it just a little bit differently than we did before. So I'm just going to start here kind of round, pretty low. And then another little round here that'll go to the bottom of our circle. So we have kind of like two little petals on the side here. Okay, then we'll follow our circle line, hold it down, edit the arc to adjust it a little bit. and then fill that in, smooth any of it out if you need to. So then we'll go to our layer menu, we'll add a new layer, drag the new layer behind this one, and grab our second color on the second row. And now essentially we're just going to do that same thing, but on the other side. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to, again, kind of just a round, and then a smaller round, or something similar. So maybe I'll start a little higher, like this, connect down to about our circle, and then follow our circle line all the way there, hold it down, adjust it if you need to, try to just kind of, draw around here to connect that and fill it in. So then they're just kind of similar looking petals like so. Smooth any of that out, and then we're going to go ahead and draw our back one. So on our layer menu, let's add another new layer, drag it below the layers that we have so far here. Grab our third color on the second row and draw our back shape. So kind of same thing as before, maybe like 3 little bumps, and then connect it around the petals and fill it in. Adjust it if you need to with your pen or your eraser, smooth it out, all that good stuff. Okay, and then once that's in a good spot, let's go ahead and stretch it out like our other one. So on our layer menu, let's slide right on each of these layers and put them in a group again. Grab the group at the top, arrow tool, freeform. Let's stretch it up quite a bit. And then again, we can kind of rotate it maybe a little to the right. But yeah, nice and stretched out a little bit like our other one. So they should look similar, but not identical. Okay, now we can go ahead and get rid of our circles. So I'm just going to delete that layer entirely. And this is what we're left with. A great start. Now we're going to go ahead and go through and do the highlights and shadows and everything to each one. So on our layer menu, let's go back to our first group here, which is our left flower. I'm going to start at the bottom, click on this layer and turn on alpha lock. Okay, so this was our darkest color, the third one on the second row. The shadow and highlight color for that are going to be our last two on this row of colors, the 6th and 7th in line. So let's start with the 6th one, which is our highlight color. The brush that we're going to use for this is going to be the medium brush under the airbrushing category. I'm going to have my opacity set to like 50% on the brush, and then our size set pretty small to maybe like 5. And we'll zoom in here, and I'm just going to make a quick highlight across the top with this, like so. Just kind of following that shape. You can go over the edges a little bit more, like one more time after picking your brush up to kind of brighten that there, since our opacity is lower. Okay, then same layer, we're just going to switch our color now to the darker one, the 7th one on the second row, and this is our shadow color. So I'm going to start this inside and just kind of have it poke out a little bit here and there, not covering up our whole, shape, so we still have our base color in there a little bit as well. Okay, then we're just going to add a few kind of dots as like some fun. So to do that, we're going to switch our brush to the medium airbrush down here, the skinnier one. Set our opacity at 100, our size at maybe 10. And we're just going to go through and just add a few of these little dots. Like so. We'll just do our dark color for our back piece. We'll do light and dark for our other pieces potentially. But that's for that back piece. Now let's go to our layer menu and let's just actually do our other one since we already did that. So let's open up our other group for our right flower here. Select our bottom layer, click on it and turn on alpha lock. Back to our highlight color, the 6th one on the second row. Back to our medium brush at 50% for our opacity, 5% for our size. And same thing here, we'll just do a quick highlight across the top for that. Brighten it up in some areas by picking our brush up a second time. And then do our shadow as well. So switch to our 7th color, starting from the bottom, working our way up a little bit. Picking our brush up a couple times towards the bottom to darken it there just a little bit. And then same color, we're just going to switch our brush again to our medium airbrush at 10% and just kind of make some of these little darker dots inside. Now we can move on to our next petals. So that's going to be our middle petals for each one. So let's go back to our left group, select our middle petal, turn on alpha lock. And our front two colors are so similar, we're going to use the same shadow and highlight color for each. So that's this fourth and fifth one in line. So let's grab our fourth one, which is our highlight color. Switch back to our medium brush, same settings, and we'll do this as a quick highlight here on the top right side, like so, maybe following the right side of our petal a little bit more. Okay, and then this one's going to have a good shadow on it, so grab the fifth color on the second row, and we're going to primarily like follow our other petal here a little bit, start a shadow right next to it there, picking our brush up a couple times, and then maybe a slight shadow, just kind of following the curve across the bottom here. Awesome. Same layer. Let's switch to our medium airbrush again. We have our darker color. Let's go ahead and just make a couple little spots with that. And then let's grab our highlight color again, fourth one on the second row, and maybe we'll just do like one highlight up there. Maybe a little bit lighter than that. So I just didn't push down as hard. If you push down really hard, you'll get a really bright one. So if you want a lighter one, just don't push down as hard, or you can mess with your opacity of the brush over there. Okay, now let's just again switch to our middle layer for our other one, our right group. Click on it and turn on alpha lock, and same thing, we're on our highlight color already. Let's just switch our brush back to our medium brush, do our highlights on it. So it's our left petal this time, and we'll kind of highlight the tips of it, and then along the left side here would also have a good highlight. Kind of again go over again to create it a little brighter. And then our shadow color, fifth one on the second row. Same thing, we'll follow our other petal primarily to get a shadow going there, and then along the bottom side just a little bit, maybe wherever we don't have a highlight. Then switch our brush again to the medium airbrush. Add in a couple of these dots here and our lighter color as well. Maybe we'll do two since we have like a little more space on that one showing. But again, I don't think I want them that bright. A little bit lighter. There we go. Okay, now our last petal. So let's just go back to our left group. Top petal, turn on alpha lock, same colors even. So this fourth one on the second row, and then we'll just switch our brush back to the medium brush. And then our light will kind of, again, follow our right side for this one, since our sun's on the right side here. So we'll do like the tips, and then our right side here a little bit. Then our shadow color, same one, fifth one on the second row. And we'll just kind of do a little bit of a shadow along the left side here that's away from our sun. Okay, switch to our medium airbrush for our little dots. We'll make a few of those in the darker color. And then switch to our lighter color as well. And maybe make a couple of those. Awesome, maybe one more pretty light one there. Okay, then we move to our other group, top layer, turn on alpha lock. Same thing, we're on our highlight color already. Just switch our brush back to the medium brush and follow along the top. And then follow along like this left side that's the sun is hitting. Okay, then for our shadow color, fifth one on the second row, same thing, we'll just do this opposite side of the sun a little bit there. And then switch back to our medium airbrush, sorry, and do our dots. Switch to our brighter color, do a few of those as well. Maybe we'll just do two of those since it's a little smaller. So then our flowers should look similar but different, like so. And if you feel like you need to move them around anymore, you can. You can just grab their group and you can still move them or rotate them or whatever you might need to do. But next up, we're going to move on to our stems and leaves. So on our layer menu, let's go ahead and just minimize these groups. Let's add a layer above our background stuff. And this is where we'll start our stems and leaves. So let's go ahead and start with our stems. So on our new layer here, let's grab the first color on the last row of the color palette, switch back to our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab, and I'm just going to create a stem coming out of each of these. So at the bottom of this one, I'm just going to start maybe a little to like the left of center, or what I think center is, and do a quick curvy line like this. So do it really quick to get a good smooth line. Then right next to it, we'll do another one, kind of following that as best as we can. It can get like a little thicker at the bottom, that's okay. And then connected at the top, it should be going off the screen on the bottom, and then we can fill that in. Okay, same layer, we're just gonna do our other one as well. So I'm just gonna maybe start there. Maybe we'll do like a kind of an opposite curve or something kind of similar but different. And then again, connect it across the top, fill it in. Okay, so this is our stem layer. Now let's go to our layer menu and add a new layer behind it, so above our background group. And we'll do our first set of leaves. So switch to our second color on this last row, and we'll start and do our left leaves. So let's see, I'm going to start maybe just kind of at the base somewhere, maybe like about halfway through, and just kind of going to curve up into our sun and then maybe curve back down on the other side, something kind of thick like that, but looks kind of like a thick blade of grass. Then I'm going to connect it at the base and fill it in. Okay, and then I'll start another one on the left side here, maybe a little lower. And we want to stay within our pink area. Want it to be a little thicker than that still, so maybe more like that. Try to kind of connect it back here and then fill that in. So those are our two leaves for our back one. I actually want this left one to be a little lower, almost like touching the ground. So maybe we'll do more like that. There we go. And then connect it and fill it in. Okay, then let's go to our layer menu, add a new layer above this one, still below our stems, and we'll do our left flower. So it'll kind of overlap with our other one. So maybe we'll do kind of like this and like this. And then connect it and fill it in. And then our right one, again, maybe we'll have like a little bit lower. And connect it and fill it in. Touch up anything that you might need to, like my point on this one got kind of weird. I'll just kind of use my eraser and then my pen again to kind of fix that. Okay, so now we're going to add shadows and highlights to these. And like I said earlier, we are going to use like a purple and peachy color on each one to add our shadows and highlights. So before, with our flowers, we were doing a lighter version and darker version of our base color to add our shadows and highlights. And that worked well. We were able to do that for each one, and we were able to just turn on alpha lock to do it on that same layer. But now we're going to use our purple and peachy color just to show a different way of doing it on a new layer above our layers as an overlay layer. So I'll show you exactly what I mean. So on our layer menu, let's add a layer above our stems. Click on it and set it to a clipping mask. This means that we only draw within our stem shape, kind of like alpha lock. And then click the N here to open up our options and set this layer style here on the list to overlay. Okay, grab our purple color, the third one on the bottom row. Grab our medium brush again under the airbrushing category. Still opacity at 50, size at 5. And feel free to adjust your size or opacity if you need to, depending on how hard you push. But I'm just going to zoom in on my left flower here, and this is our shadow color. So we're going to add a shadow underneath our flower. So just start kind of pushing there. Pick it up a couple times and make it a little deeper at the base. And just kind of blend it on out. And then since our sun is to the right of this, we're going to add a shadow kind of along the left side a little bit as well. Very, very lightly, like so. Then on the same layer, we're just going to switch our color to the fourth color on the bottom row. And this is our highlight color. So same thing, we're just going to do the opposite side now. for a highlight. So again, adjust your opacity and stuff if you need to, because I know that one gets pretty bright pretty fast. So feel free to adjust that. But that is how we do that on a new layer that's set to overlay. So we're going to do the same thing for our other stem since we're right above that one as well. We'll just switch back to our purple color and do underneath in a shadow. And then along the right side of this with our shadow since it's away from the sun. Then our highlight color again, fourth one on the bottom row, and do our highlight on the left side here. So then that's it for the stems. There's no other details on those. We're going to do a similar thing for each of our leaves now. So let's add a layer above our leaf layer here that's on top, which is our right set of leaves. Click on it and set it to a clipping mask. Click the N and set it to overlay. Let's grab our purple color again, and our shadows will just kind of go on the lower sides. So I'm going to start on this left grass piece here. We can go ahead and turn off our other grass layer if that's helpful, so we see exactly what we're drawing on. And then we're going to leave the whole tip alone. That'll be in highlight. So just starting kind of like a third of the way down or so. On the lower side, we're going to add in this shadow. Again, getting kind of deeper as we get closer to the bottom side. And then same thing here, a good shadow on the lower side, like so. Then we'll switch to our highlight color, fourth one on the bottom row, and do the tips of them in kind of a highlight. Awesome. And then we're actually going to add one more layer to this with some more detail on it. So on our layer menu, let's add a new layer again, set it to a clipping mask, and click the N and set it to overlay. And then we're going to use these next two colors. So we have kind of like a navy color and like a yellowy color just to give us some different tones. So let's start with our navy color, fifth one on the bottom row. Switch our pen to the studio pen under the inking category. So find that. Our opacity is at 100, our size at maybe 30. And then I'm just going to, again, follow my shadow. So I'm going to kind of follow my shadow down here a little further down and then in a nice, like, kind of crisp line. Okay, and then same thing on the other one. And we're going to lower the opacity of this one. I didn't want to lower the opacity of the brush because I wanted it all to be solid. So if we pick our brush up, it's not like making different layers. So I want it all to be solid, but then we'll just lower the opacity of the layer so it's not so crazy looking. But then we're also going to add like a few little dots maybe down here with this color as well. But essentially, as you can see with this overlay layer, so it gets a lot darker down here because the base color we're drawing on is darker, and then it gets kind of more like medium colored in here because we're working up into this lighter area. So that's the best part about it, is that you don't have to keep changing your color. You just use the one color and it makes differences on all these as it should, you know. So you don't have to like pick a lighter version of this and then a lighter version of this and then a lighter version of this to do it all on the same layer. You can just do it on one layer with one color. But that was kind of our shadow color. Now we're going to switch to like our highlight color, which is this yellowy color, the sixth one on the last row. And we're going to first start by making a line through the middle. So I'm going to come up here around my dots and kind of make a quick line that ends in a point. Same thing here. Something like that. Then we'll also make a highlight on the edge. So let's just kind of follow the edge. And again, we will lower the opacity of this, but we'll just kind of follow that edge and kind of let it fall off the top there. Same thing there, not like that. And kind of let it fall off the edge there. And then a few dots as well here and there on that kind of upper side. Okay, so that's how it looks now. And then let's go to our layer menu. Click the O on this layer to open up our options and lower the opacity quite a bit to maybe like 50%. And that looks beautiful. That adds some good detail to our leaves, and that looks great. Now we're just going to do the same thing for our other set of leaves. So on our layer menu, if we just turn off this leaf layer here, this one that's set to normal N, it turns off the clipping masks as well. So then we'll just turn on our next one, our bottom one, add a layer above it, click on it, set it to a clipping mask, click the N and set it to overlay, and we are going to start with our medium brush, back to our medium brush, and our purple color, the third one on the bottom row. So we'll do our smooth shadows again, and then we'll do like our details. So again, for this one, our shadows are going to kind of start on the lower edge, like so. And then same thing, lower edge, getting deeper towards the bottom. Okay, then our highlight color, fourth one on the bottom row, and just do the tips a little bit. Again, I know that one gets really bright, so mess with your opacity if you need to. But we do want some bright highlighty sections, but nothing too crazy. So that's it for those, and now let's go ahead and add another new layer. Click on it and set it to a clipping mask, click the N and set it to overlay, and now we'll do our like navy and yellow color. So start with our navy, fifth one on the bottom row. Switch back to our studio pen under the inking category at 30%. And again, let's just start by making some really thick kind of shadow lines across the bottom of each. Okay, then a few little dots as well with this. And then switch to our yellow color, sixth one on the bottom row. Start with our quick lines that end in like a point. And then again along the edge. And then a few dots as well. Okay, then again, layer menu, click the O on this layer, drag the opacity down to 50. Okay, and then all we need to do is turn on our other main leaf layer, and the clipping masks that are on it will pop up as well. So boom, now we have all of our leaves on with all of their shadows and details. So they look great. So then now our last thing to do is just add our bees. This time we're just going to make one bee and we're going to duplicate it for the others. So let's go ahead and just make one up in the sky here. So then on our layer menu, we can actually save some layers and we can snap these together. So we can snap our two clipping masks to our bottom leaves, our two clipping masks to our other leaves, and then our clipping mask to our stem layer, and that just helps save us some layers. Okay, so then let's add a new layer on the top of all of our layers. Let's grab our first B color, the sixth one on the top row, our bright yellow, and switch to our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. We're going to start with just a big oval, or not a big oval, but a small oval, but a kind of fat oval, I guess. So something like this, hold it down. Click the edit ellipse button if you would like to adjust it. So we're going to leave it a nice oval, but again, kind of chunky, kind of a chunky bee, and fill that in. So mine's at kind of an angle. Yours doesn't have to be. We can still angle it afterwards, but we are going to have it angled up a little bit like this. Okay, so then on our layer menu, click on this layer and turn on alpha lock. And we're just going to draw the stripes right on it. So let's grab our black or dark gray color, the seventh one on the top row, same monoline brush. And I'm just going to start on the butt here. So let's say the right side is the butt. I'm going to make a quick stripe there, kind of maybe thicken it up a little bit. Go up a little bit and make another stripe, just slightly curved like in the middle. And then another stripe here. This will be towards the front. And then we'll make its eyeball. So then on the very front here, we'll just make a quick circle for his eye. I'm not holding it down or anything, but that's its eyeball. Okay, layer menu, let's add a new layer. Drag our new layer below our bee body. And this is where his little balls on his head will go. So we'll start with our gray color here still. Same monoline brush at 30%. And I'm just going to make on his head a line coming out this way, a line coming out this way. Then I'll switch to our white color, the next one in line, eighth one on the top row. Same layer, same brush. We're just going to make some little balls on the top. So again, a quick circle and not holding it down, but you can if you would like to. So those are his little antenna thingies. While we're on our white color, let's really quick make a little twinkle in his eye. So let's go back to our main B layer. Same monoline brush, let's drop the size really little to like 5%. And just zoom in on his eye here and just make a little dot for like a little twinkle. Something like that. Okay, now we can make his wings. So again, we'll make one wing and then we'll duplicate it for the other. So on our layer menu, let's add a new layer above our B. Same white color, same brush, let's up our size back to 30. And then his wing is going to be kind of an oval shape as well with a straight line on it on the front. So let's start with the straight line. So right here, kind of in the middle of his body, I'm just going to make a quick straight line, hold it down until it turns perfectly straight. It's kind of like angled across his body like this. Then from one point to the other, we're going to make a curved line for his wing and hold that down as well. And then click the edit ellipse button or arc or whatever you get at the top to adjust it to kind of meet up nicely, if as nice as you can. Something like this. And then go ahead and fill that in. Okay, it looks kind of crazy at this angle, so I'm going to angle it a little differently. Maybe more like this. And then on our layer menu, we're going to make this kind of transparent. So click the N and drag the opacity down a little bit to maybe like 70% or so. Add a layer above it. And then with our same white color, we're going to switch to our studio pen under the inking category again. And we are going to just quickly in the middle of this draw some quick lines to kind of be his wings. So something like that, almost like you would draw on like a leaf. So I left my size the same at like 30%, but feel free to adjust yours if you need to. Okay, then on our layer menu, let's just snap those two layers together so that's our wing. Adjust it any more if you need to. My angle is still kind of weird. I'll maybe do something more like that. Okay, and then we just need our back wing as well. So on our layer menu, let's make a duplicate of this wing layer. Drag one of them below our B body. And then grab it with our arrow tool. Rotate it and kind of drag it up here so it's like sticking out from behind him at a slightly different angle like that. So that's our chunky B. We're just going to add one shadow and highlight to his body now. So on our layer menu, go to our body layer, add a layer right above it, click on it and set it to a clipping mask, click the N and set it to overlay, and switch back to our medium brush under the airbrushing category. And we have a shadow and highlight color here. So grab our 9th color on the top row. Okay, we'll lower our size quite a bit to like 3%. Our opacity for the brush is still at 50. And I'm just going to kind of go across the bottom of the body here to create a nice shadow there. Very simple. Then let's grab our peachy color, last one on the top row, and this is our highlight color. So I'm going to go kind of across the top of his head with this and the top of his body a little bit. Like so. That's where his highlight will be. So once that's done, make any other adjustments that you need to our chunky B here. And then once he's all done, we can snap all of his layers together, from the little balls on his head all the way to his top wing to one layer. Grab that with our arrow tool, and now you can like resize him or move him around all at once. You can kind of angle him a little bit differently and place him where you want him. So I'm going to place him up here by my left flower, kind of in the middle towards the top. Then we just need to make a duplicate of him for our other one. So on our layer menu, just slide to the left and hit duplicate on him. Grab it with our arrow tool, click flip horizontal first so he's facing the other way. Then I'm just going to maybe drag him down and maybe he'll kind of live like right here by our other flower towards the bottom of it. So something kind of like that. Very lastly, if you needed to like move your sun in the background at all, feel free to do so, but mine looks pretty good, but we did keep that as a separate layer in case you wanted to resize it or move it around or anything. But otherwise, once everything looks good to you and good and in place and you're happy with your picture, that completes our drawing today. So I hope that you had fun. I hope that you like the way that yours turned out, and I hope that you maybe learned something new. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more tutorials from me in the future. If you would like to share your drawing on Instagram, I would love to see it, so go ahead and post it there and then tag me so that I can check it out. And while you're there, go ahead and give me a follow so you can see what I'm working on next. Thanks for watching!